So are you convinced that Donald Trump is a flash in the pan? Are you convinced that after a while, when people start voting, if you look at past trends, that Donald Trump will just be a quick start like a Herman Cain? He'll be the guy that jumped out like Rudy Giuliani and then fade? Well, not so fast. Look at what history tells us as we look at the numbers at the similar time leading up to Iowa.
That's right. This data is from the Princeton Election Consortium, and when you look at the last three Republican nominees at this point, okay, so they were all nationally #1. George Bush had a 45% lead.
Huge.
Mitt Romney had 8. John McCain at this point had just 1. But when you factor in Donald Trump, then look at this. He is way ahead of where Mitt Romney was at this point, and significantly higher than John McCain. All 4 of those, or rather all 3 of them, aside from Mr. Trump, went on to get the nomination.
Yeah, and look at also where Hillary is at this point, if you factor her into this entire thing, where Barack Obama was in 2008. Of course,
these are the people who actually wound up with nominations for the White House ultimately.
Yeah, if you look at the most telling, I think 2008. Look where Barack Obama was, who would eventually get the nomination. He was *2 nationally. He was #2 in Iowa. He'd end up #1. He'd end up losing to Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire, but he had a 19-point lead.
And Donald Trump may be #2, but really in a dead heat, you know, in some of the early states with Ted Cruz, there in Iowa anyway. But in South Carolina and nationally, in New Hampshire, Donald Trump is killing it.
Look at Hillary Clinton real quick for a second. I don't think we discussed
Mark,
that.
can we put that up for one more second?
Hillary Clinton is really #2 by a long shot in New Hampshire.
Okay. You know what's interesting about this particular graphic, and I know there are a lot of numbers there.
A lot of faces.
Take a look at the far right. You've got Barack Obama in 2008. Nationally, he was #2 at this point. He went on to win. He had 19%. He went on to win. He was #2 in Iowa. He went on to win #2 in New Hampshire. And yet his numbers are pretty much identical to Donald Trump at this point. The Washington Post writes about these particular graphs, and they say it's starting to get late for Donald Trump to collapse.
And people said from the beginning he's not really going to run. He's just doing this for publicity. Or then when he started to seem serious about it, no, he's really not going to do it because he's not going to want to talk about his finances and put all that out there.
Oh, he wants to win.
He is in it to win it.
He
likes to win.
And the big difference between President Obama and Donald Trump, Donald Trump's been winning for 5 months. President Obama wasn't winning. The first time he won was actually when the caucus numbers came in.